Okay, tonight I haven't got much to show you. I'll just show you a couple of quick charts and we'll just have a quick look at the XJO so we can work out what the heck it's doing. Just going to continue on with ASX because I've shown you this the last few videos now. This is a daily chart showing that gap up on Monday. It's actually had 3 down candles now and it filled this gap that we'd been talking about. So we'll just have a look at the intraday chart. That's the Monday gap. It's continued to make lower highs throughout this range. Broke down, as I mentioned on the video last night, I held some overnight, actually broke down through that previous little support from the afternoon on Wednesday and then proceeded to dip quite nicely down. I'll just pull up that to a day chart. Quite nicely down to fill that gap. So the gap was to 32.76 I think, and it filled it down about here. So once it hit that gap I was pretty much on a trailing stop. So continued down, held a little bit of a sideways range here, dumped again, and then it's proceeded to bounce. Once it broke this level here, which I think was about 32.65, I was out, so I covered that short for now. There may well be more in it, but for me that was a nice little scalp. So ASX has worked quite nicely now 3 days in a row. Second one I want to show you is AIW, and we'll just go to the end of day chart. I mentioned this in the Twitter today. It had some rare earths news. It was 4.2 odd cents before this news, and it opened at 10 after this news, which is quite incredible. And something that I would never chase. I can't for life me understand why punters chase these things. We'll go to the intraday chart here. I think it traded once right on open at 4.2 cents here. And then it hadn't traded again all day until the news came out at about midday, and it opened at 10. Now that's, for me to chase that, even though it's right on that 10-cent tick change that I like to actually buy, I can't chase that gap, even though I may risk missing out on a higher run. I just can't chase a gap so big. But obviously people did, and people even bought at 10.5, which just shows the power of this rare earths hot sector at the moment. But if we were to look at this and look to where there would be a trade in it, and I did take a couple of little scalps out of this today. This is, what are we on? We're on a 5-minute chart here. So it's hit 10 and it started to dip. Now if you wanted to play a strict swing low, we could just look for the break of the high of the previous candle, which would have happened probably on this one here. I'd like to take that second candle for confirmation. So looking at 8-cent break there. So once it broke through 8, there was a run up to 9 cents there. Now, to be perfectly honest, I traded a lot today. I can't remember even if I took that little scalp there or not. I don't think I did. But it failed there at 9, so it made a lower high. So we certainly weren't looking like we were in any sort of uptrend after that. But then, interestingly enough, it made a higher low. So it couldn't get as low as this candle here. It actually bounced up to 8.2. And then sort of drifted from there, and from about here onwards, which was 1:15, 8 cents was fairly stiff res. It hit a few times and just couldn't break through. So for me, 8 cents become a fairly obvious place to enter a break of 8, and I think I did mention on the Twitter that a swing low was shaping as it was coming up towards 8. So you enter at 8.1, which I did. You can see a little bit of volume kick in here as well, which is handy, and it travelled fairly nicely without giving you any reason to want to get out. Broke 9, which is where there was some res earlier in the day. Got up to 9.5. At that stage I actually thought it may well test 10 again in the afternoon, but then failed. And I was out of most of them between there and 9 once it was pretty obvious that it wasn't going to break above 10. It looked again like it was going to have a swing here, but couldn't go on with it. So there were trades in AIW, but to chase that from 4 cents to 10 cents or 10.5 cents on any news, to me is just not worth it. Yeah, I hope no one watching this were the people that got stung in that, but we all do it. I've done it as a beginner, chasing news gaps and hoping that I was on a winner, but it's just fraught with danger. So yeah, not for me. I will do a video at some stage at how I like to play news plays. That initial swing is, in fact I might as well talk about it now. The initial swing is one really good entry, but I actually prefer to wait for a break of the initial, say, 15 to 20 minute range or 30-minute range after that news. So in this case it would have been the 10.5 high and that 7.2 or whatever is low. So if it formed that, if this was a minute chart, for example, and that was the initial range, I'd be looking for a break of that range. So if it was news that was bad and it's a shortable stock, if it bounced back up here and then broke down through that low, I'd probably consider shorting it, because usually it will then continue down this way with a stop either right up here if this range isn't too large, or maybe just a break of a couple of candles back if I wanted to keep it tight. And conversely, if it's opened up here, dipped down to here, and then continued up and broken through there, to me that's another quite decent entry to play this break, especially on a nice strong day and if it's a strong sector. So for me, that's how I usually look at news plays. I'll either play the break of that initial range, or I'll look for the early swing. Usually I won't go as hard on the swing as I will on the break of that range, because they do tend to continue in the direction of the trend if they break that range. Alright, and lastly I just want to look at the XJ. Obviously we copped a bit of a hiding this afternoon. I'll go to an end of day chart, sorry. That's the end of day 3 monthly. We'll go to a 6 monthly there. It certainly looks like we're shaping for a downward leg, but obviously, we're also a little bit at the mercy of what happens in the international markets overnight. You'd certainly think from this chart that we are headed down this way, but to where, I suppose, is the question. We pull up a yearly, and I'll try and pull up some trend lines on this. Actually, I'll move that. Alright, so maybe we're going to, if we have got some decent downside, we might look at testing this trend line here. And that would keep us still in a medium-term uptrend. So we could, by the time it hits this trend line, it might be up to about 4,500 or something like that. And that would still keep us in a short-term to medium-term uptrend and give us a fairly decent pullback at the same time. 4,500 may actually be a decent area of support, because there has been some support. I'll draw lines through there. There's been some support or previous resistance around that 4,500 on the way up, so that may well create some support on the way down. Obviously 4,600 being previous resistance back here was an area that people were hoping would hold, and it hasn't. Whether that's just an anomaly and we're on our way again just later this week or next week, who knows. But I wouldn't at all be surprised to see us drop down towards 4,500 and then be able to continue that uptrend if that's the case. But it certainly looks like there's a little bit of downside ahead of us, but who knows. I think Thursday or Friday's chart last week also looked a little like that, and we bounced quite well. So that's the XJO. I really try not to predict what's going to happen. I'd much rather just follow the price action than get an idea in my head where stocks are going to go, where the market's going to go. I'd rather stay fairly neutral and just trade what I see in front of me. But at the moment, the XJO certainly looks like it could have some downside. I've lightened off quite considerably today, added a couple of little shorts just to protect the longs that I have kept. It's been a fairly good week, so I want to protect the profits now for the last day of the week. That's all for tonight. Talk to you tomorrow.